Hey guys, welcome back to the Wellness That Fits podcast. Today I'm doing a little something different. I am actually recording this episode outside right now in my garden because I actually want to do a little recap from the episode I did on the Optimized Brain Garden. And I want to just go through the process of what's happening right now in my garden. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I apologize for the poor video, but it's just going to be me walking around my garden talking about the reasons I chose what I chose and what's actually going on in real time in mom life, in the chaos of traveling and summer and what's happening in the garden. Okay. Because we can talk all we want about planning a garden, right? In a nervous system regulated garden. But what actually grows is another story. So let's get into it. So a few weeks ago, I had, like I said, published an episode podcast on the Optimized Brain Garden. And what I talked about our nervous system regulating foods and herbs and nervines that help regulate the nervous system, and maybe that are high fiber or high polyphenol content or high antioxidant content, which can help heal the gut and help feed bacteria, the good bacteria in our gut, which can actually improve mood. So, reducing anxiety, improving mood, increasing energy, and helping with stress resilience. And so, this year, I really wanted to focus hard on what has worked, what hasn't, and then create an optimized brain garden so that I can just eat from my own garden. Of course, I do go to the grocery store, in winter months when I run out of my leafy greens and such. But so that's what we're going to talk about here today. So in my one garden, I'm going to show you too. By the way, I have 3 raised beds, so you can see them all here. I do not have a lot of space. I wish I had more, of course, but this is what I have to work with, and I am grateful to have this space even. And so, each of these raised beds are like 4 by 8, 4 feet by about 8 feet. And so each of these little squares here are like 4 by 4 feet. And so in this first square, I have planted my leafy greens. So I'm going to kind of talk about it, not necessarily in the order that I talked about it on the podcast, but rather just how it is in my garden. And so I have leafy greens mainly in this bed. I have some lettuces. I also have Swiss chard and kale. So leafy greens are amazing for cognitive health. They are shown to help reduce cognitive decline if you can eat them about daily or 6 times a week. And so that is a huge thing in my family that I focus on, is trying to provide different variety of leafy greens. And so what I really like to do is grow Swiss chard so that I can blanch it and then freeze it in balls. I call them Swiss chard balls in my freezer. And then I'll pull them out when needed to make soups, stews. I mainly use it for soups and stews, but of course you can use it for casseroles and for other things. I would not recommend eating it raw because, of course, when you freeze a leafy green, it's very fragile and it's just not going to thaw very nicely. However, it would be okay in a soup. And so you can see here, I hardly have, I mean, they're like tiny, tiny right now. I'm in Wisconsin. I do not have a greenhouse, would love to have a greenhouse. At this point, I do not have one. And I have tried just planting it in the house numerous years. If I miss one day or just, something comes up, like I said in the last episode, we had a birthday party for my son. I missed one day watering, and boy, did it not. It basically killed all my little seedlings that I had spent days and weeks coddling and nurturing and making sure that they grow, and they were all dead. And so what I do now is I planted the weekend, the mid-May. It was mid-May. And, or was it? Yeah, it was mid-May. And so what I did is just planted everything from seeds, almost everything from seeds. That's another thing too. And I'll talk about that a little bit more, but usually I would get some things as seedlings. And so as we go, I'll talk about that. But all my leafy greens I got from seeds. I have kale on the far end. And by the way, our neighbors have a fence here. And so this bed right here probably gets the most shade. It does get full sun throughout most of the day. I would say the morning, afternoon, and then towards the later afternoon it is shaded, which is probably good. And so I have my plants that prefer more shade in this area. And so again, I have kale and Swiss chard and lettuces. We talked about the leafy greens being great for cognitive decline, cognitive function, executive functioning, high in antioxidants, high in a lot of other nutrients. You know, very good source of zinc and iron and some other things like that, magnesium. And so those are good for that. Kale is um, produces a compound that basically, when you cut it up, when you cut kale, it increases the sulforaphane content. So I talked a little bit about sulforaphanes. I'm not going to go super in depth with it here. If you want to learn more about it, you can listen to that episode on the Optimized Brain Garden. But my kale is doing okay. Now I gotta say, I'm a little annoyed with the rabbits in our yard. A little story behind it. They made a nest right next to our house, and we actually held, we're not really supposed to hold the babies, but we held one of the babies, and it was pretty much full grown and ready to go. And literally the next day they all left the nest. So we got some of those buggers running around and biting off the tips of all my Swiss chard and some of my kale. But as I get closer to the ground here, I can see that they're growing pretty well. I kind of do them in rows, kind of. I'm not a perfectionist about it. And they're growing pretty well. My Swiss chard is getting eaten up on the kind of outsides here, but otherwise we're doing really well there. You can see this giant bush in the back here, and this next bed is my lemon balm. I love lemon balm. It smells like lemon. If you're following me on Instagram, take a look at my Instagram account, because I have a reel where I made a lemon balm adaptogenic drink, and it had some electrolytes in it from Ultima electrolyte drink mix. And then it also had these like super awesome lemon balm leaves in it. And so if you pull one out, it literally smells like lemon. It's very nice. You can chop this up. You can put it in muffins and anything where you need like lemon, like lemon peel, where you can grate it up and put it into that. You could put it into drinks. You can put it into like make lemon water, but it's using lemon balm leaves. I just hosted a retreat where I did lemon balm cucumber water. So you could also use this in tea. And then what I usually do is I'll use it fresh during the summer, and then I will dry it and make sure it's fully dried, and then put it into a just a jar, and then save it for the dried leaves for over winter, where I can then make tea from the dry leaves. So super versatile, smells amazing. It smells so good. And it grows really nice. I didn't even plant this. Like, this has been in my garden. Well, I did plant it from a seedling like 3 or 4 years ago. And it has just returned every year. It grows full and big and wonderful. And it's at the time of this recording, this is like 2 weeks after I planted the rest of my garden. And so this has been growing basically since March. So it's a nice little bit bush. I would keep it contained, because if you plant it somewhere in your yard, just be aware that it could spread. It's like mint. It's like kind of like a weed where it spreads. And so it's really nice though. It has those qualities of anti-anxiety, promoting calmness. I usually do the tea before bed. It's just a little relaxer that's really a natural relaxer that's nice to have to calm your nervous system. So I love my lemon balm plant. The next thing I talked about on that Optimized Brain podcast or episode are just herbs in general. Like, spices and herbs are super high in antioxidants. The ones that I use most in the kitchen, and so I usually plant those, would be sage, oregano, rosemary, and basil. I usually, and most gardening places will tell you this, or most gardening advice would tell you this too. Um, Monkeying with the seeds is really difficult. You just have to have really good nurturing conditions, especially if you're just going to throw the seeds in the ground and just hope that they come up. I, for some reason, just was like such in a mood to plant that I kind of like, I don't know, forgot. And so I bought the seeds, and the basil is actually coming up. I can show you that in a little bit, but I know from experience that planting oregano and rosemary from seeds is like really difficult. I don't know why I bought the packets, but so I'm just confirming here that it does not look like my rosemary or my oregano from my pots are coming up. Whatever. Next year, I'm going to write that down just so I can remember to just buy them from seedlings and then just transplant them. Okay, so that's the lemon balm. I do have a tiny little sage plant here, which honestly looks like the rabbits are getting at, or something's getting at. I don't know. Usually rabbits and pests don't like sage. Usually you plant it around the outsides of your garden so that so it deters pests. But here is my sage plant. This comes back every year. I planted this 2 years ago. And so it has come back very nicely. I don't have to do anything with it. I get plenty out of this. I'm actually probably going to pick some of the leaves and then dry them so that I can start making dried sage. I use sage a lot in chicken recipes, like when I'm cooking a whole or baking a whole chicken. And then so that's my sage. Oh, I also planted leeks, not part of an optimized brain garden. I just wanted to try it out this year. I have not seen them come through yet, but be watching, keeping my eye on that. So that is sage. Now in this next garden over here, I have planted my Napa, or no, not Napa cabbage. I did that last year. I planted red cabbage. The reason I planted red cabbage is because it is a leafy green. It has sulforaphanes when you cut into it and you allow it to sit, and sulforaphanes are great for the gut and your overall health. And red cabbage has it's since it's red, it has different antioxidants in it. So for variety, I have red plants, right? I have green plants and red, more red with the tomato. Usually I do some peppers, but I don't really have any orange varieties. But the more color that you can include in your diet, the better. So what do I got here? I did beans also because we like to do, usually we usually either eat these like pole beans or bush beans. We eat them fresh, or I've also canned some, like do spicy beans. You can have, well, I would normally say in an old fashioned, but I haven't really had too many old fashions recently because I really don't drink that much alcohol. But my husband loves spicy beans in an old fashioned, and also Brussels sprouts. But my Brussels sprouts were too much work last year. They weren't any work, actually. They just didn't come up properly. I didn't have enough space for them. So anyway, beans are over here. Sorry. Beans are right there. And then in the back, I have that red cabbage there, really tiny. I'm going to see, this is super ghetto, but we're going to see if you can see. There it is. Okay. There is my little cabbage. There's, I planted 6 little spaces of them, put multiple seeds in each space. And it looks like I have 5 of the holes. They're holes, like little mounds that came through. And there's multiple little cabbages. So once they get a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger, I might try to space them out a little bit more so that they have more room to grow. I also have a random one potato plant because my son had planted, it's right here. It's like fallen over. We transplanted it this weekend. My son grew a potato in his class, in science class. And so we wanted to, it's been doing really well in the house, but it's kind of time to plant it in the garden. So we transplanted it. Okay, I also planted rosemary in this bed, but that doesn't seem to be coming through. There are some things coming through that I'm not quite sure at this point are rosemary or if they're just like purslane or other weeds. In this side of the bed, I always do tomatoes, so that wasn't part of the optimized brain garden. But I've tried something different every year. I've tried doing tomato sauce. I've tried doing tomato paste. That was way too much work. I'd rather just buy it. But the tomato sauce or tomato juice is more doable. But sometimes what I like to do is just like peel them and then not peel them by hand. But usually like you can blanch them and then the peel kind of falls off and then you just freeze them. And I use it in curry. I use my immersion blender to just blend it into a curry, make my own sauce like on the spot kind of. And so I always just like having tomatoes. Usually it's a larger variety like Wisconsin 55. What else do I have? There's a Rucker. And then I got a cherry tomato as well. And I usually have Mexico midget. I love that one. You could put that on salads, but this year I didn't have a Mexico midget. I usually buy the seedling for that one. Didn't have it this year, but I do recommend that. Very productive plant. Okay, in this last bed, what we have here is not brain optimized garden related. I have my zucchini in this bed. Zucchini in this bed, we use zucchini just like to eat in the summer, but mostly I shred it. We use it in zucchini brownies, zucchini muffins, zucchini, just any baked goods really. Can use it in a casserole too, but to be honest, I really use it in baked goods. And then over there, lastly, I have in that trellised area, I have cucumbers I pickle cucumbers every year. We really like pickles in my family, and so I pickle cucumbers over there. Okay, so I am going to show you. So far what we've gone over is lemon balm, which is calming, it's supposed to calm the nervous system, anti-anxiety. If you have lemon balm tea before bed, it can really help. We've talked about leafy greens, kale, Swiss chard. I have 2 different varieties of Swiss chard. I have a rainbow Swiss chard, and I also have a red rhubarb Swiss chard. So again, the different colors bringing more diversity, not only diversity, plant diversity, but also the different colors can bring different antioxidants into the mix. Kale is also a leafy green. And then we talked about sulforaphanes. So some of those big sulforaphane producers, which are really good for your gut, would be kale and cabbage. Those are just the 2 that I have in my optimized brain garden. Of course, there are a lot of different varieties that you can plant. Lastly, I talked a lot about polyphenols and also just overall fiber. Like all of these plants can give a good amount of fiber in your diet. We all need more fiber. The average American is getting like 15 grams of fiber every day. We need about between 25 and 38, depending on if females need 25, males need like 38, even more. Now that's the RDA. We might need even more for good gut health. More studies are coming out on that. And so for gut diversity, the more plants and the more fiber we have, usually the better. Now, when I say that, of course, if you are a person who is in the 90% of Americans who are not getting enough fiber, you really want to not all of a sudden go crazy and start increasing your fiber up to like 30. You really want to take it slow. So 5 grams per day for a few days until your body gets used to it. Make sure you're hydrating. And so slowly increase your fiber until you hit that RDA or recommended dietary allowance. Okay. Lastly, like I said, polyphenols. So I love dark berries or any of the berries. Not only do they have high polyphenol content, which is a substrate for our good gut bacteria to metabolize, break down, and positively impact mood, but they also have high antioxidants. And of course, like different colors are associated with different antioxidants. But they have high fiber too. So I'm actually growing raspberries right here. And for all you people who like already grow raspberries, don't judge me because I planted this and I still have to put the cables across to support the plant. But for now, we just got these. So we have this raspberry. I have a few raspberry plants. When they start growing up and getting a little bit taller, I will have a cable that runs across or twine this bottom about 1 foot up. And then also a little bit higher up at like maybe 3 feet up. Obviously as they grow, you might want to put twine or a cable 5 feet up or more. But that's what we're starting with. So raspberries, really good for brain health. Berries in general, not just necessarily for brain health, which we already know through studies, through the Mind Diet and Martha Claire Morris, who talks a lot about cognitive function, berries, having at least 2 to 3 berries a week. But we also see studies done on like blueberries and blackberries and other berries where it can improve executive functioning in the morning. So allowing you to continue functioning your best at tasks. And we all know we need to, we have a lot going on in our heads and we need to function at our best. So raspberries also have one of the highest fiber contents for the berries. So raspberries and blackberries have about 8 grams of fiber per cup. And so if you look at like other fruits and veggies, it's closer to 2, 3, maybe you can get 4 somewhere. But some of the fruits and veggies that have 5 grams of fiber is really good to include and to know. I have resources for my clients to kind of help them increase their fiber slowly and like simply add 5 grams here or here. And it's not like do it here at breakfast and at lunch and supper. It's more like add this once in your day just to get the 5 grams right. And then as you get used to it, you can always increase it. And then as you learn more about high fiber foods, you can always increase it further, like after for each meal or for snacks and things like that. Raspberries, also just berries in general, have a lower glycemic load, so they don't increase your blood sugar as much. So that's really beneficial as well. And they're just like a really nice snack to have. So that is pretty much where I'm at with my garden right now. Raspberries, lemon balm, leafy greens, high sulforaphane containing compound plants like kale and red cabbage, and then also the spice or the herbs. So I don't think I showed you this yet, but I do have a little bit of basil growing. They're pretty tiny at this point, but I'm actually excited because they grew from seeds, which is pretty good. But the oregano and the rosemary are a little bit harder to grow, so I think I might have to buy seedlings, and then just transplant them. So that's the plan. I also have pepper plants over there, a tomato plant from Scotland, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So, Optimized Brain Garden is growing. I actually plan to do another episode if it interests my listeners. I want to do another episode on how I actually like what I do when I'm harvesting them and also like other recipes that I use these items for in my home. Of course, you can use them in a number of ways, but let me know if that would interest you because I'm happy to do an episode on harvesting and or how I'm using the recipes in my kitchen. So, thank you so much for listening today. And I hope you learned something about regulating your nervous system with food. Yes, therapy is important. Yes, breathing exercises are really important. But the way you fuel your body can absolutely impact your mood. It can help with neurotransmitter production, it can help with the correct gut brain signaling. It can help heal your gut so that you don't have as much of an inflammatory response. And then food in general can be anti-inflammatory. Whole foods, lean more towards the whole foods, whole grains and beans and nuts, seeds, legumes, increase your plant diversity. All of these things are really important for brain health, for mental health, and for nervous system regulation. So, if this helped you today, like I said, I don't know if you guys like this or not, but I am hoping that you get something out of this. If you do, let me know. Leave a review too. I would love to hear from you. Leave a review or just rate this podcast. That'd be great too. Um, so yeah, and if you want to hear more about it, just DM me at Wellness That Fits, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.